Hey guys, it's Natalia and welcome back to another Fashion Design 101 episode. Today we're going to be doing another pattern making video. If you guys missed it or if you're new to my channel, I did a torso sloper a week ago, so feel free to check that out if you haven't already. Today we're going to be working on the skirt and we will do pants and such later on, but I wanted to separate them out into their own videos just so that it was easier for you guys to find and manage, and obviously it wouldn't be too long of a video either. And before we get into it, I do want to say that I am actually making little guides for you guys to follow along with that I will have available for download on my website. I personally am a very visual person when I learn. I love watching videos, but I need written descriptions slash like diagrams and stuff to help me out a lot. So if you're that type of learner as well, I made these for you so that you can follow along with these videos a lot easier. You can write your measurements in the right places and kind of visually see everything a lot better than maybe like just on video. So I'll have that link down below. I have one for the torso and I'm gonna have one for the skirt, and then later on I will have all the other ones for all the videos I make in the future. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to make it honestly really short and just a little bit below the hip line, because obviously with a skirt you can choose the length, so there's no need to make it super long or anything because you can just extend that line later. So we're gonna keep it kind of small, so don't be alarmed that it's like a mini skirt, but I'm going to draw my hip line about like 4 inches or so from the bottom of this paper. I'm gonna extend that out. Next, I'm going to take my hip to waist measurement to figure out where my waistline should be. Generally, it will fall between 7 to 9 inches. For me, it's 9 inches, so that's what I'm going to mark. Next, to figure out the end of your hip, you're going to take your hip measurement divided by 4 plus 3/8. For me, that would be 35 divided by 4, which is 8 3/4, plus the 3/8 would give me 9 1/8. So that is what I'm going to mark. And I'm going to go ahead and bring that line up. Next, we're going to create a dart so that it fits the body properly. The dart placement is kind of a design detail, kind of usually just on the princess line, so somewhere around the middle of it. But again, it's kind of a design detail, so you can kind of choose where it goes. I'm going to go ahead and mark the center of it right about there, but again, design detail, you can kind of figure that out. Next, to figure out our waistline, we're going to take our waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1/4 and then plus 1 inch for our dart, which for me would be 24 divided by 4, so 6 plus 1/4 plus 1 inch would give me 7 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. Next, I'm going to go back to my dart and make the 1/2 inch marks on either side of that middle. To figure out the end of the dart, you want to make sure it's like 3.5 4 inches above the hip line. So that is what I'm going to mark over here so that I can then bring these lines down to it. So I'm going to bring the center line all the way down, and then the side lines come at an angle. Next, we're going to take our waist point up here and bring it up 5/8 because our waists are not straight lines and they are curved, so we need to give it a bit of curvature. So we're going to bring that up. Then you can roughly create your line, even though we're going to curve it out a little bit more later, but you can kind of see where our new line is going to be. And then we're going to take our hip curve and connect the waist point to our hip point over here to make the curve of our hip. And we're gonna leave it at that for now, and we're gonna move on to the back. So for the back, we've already kind of extended our waist and hip line over, but I'm gonna just extend them a little bit more so we can fully grasp them. So we're gonna be doing the same thing as the front as far as the waist and hip parts go. So to figure out where the hip is gonna end, you take your hip measurement divided by 4 plus 3/8, which for me would be 35 divided by 4, which is 8 3/4 plus 3/8 would give me 9 1/8. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that and bring that line up. Next, we're going to figure out where our waist is going to end, which is waist measurement divided by 4 plus 1/4 plus 1 inch for a dart. So for me, that's 24 divided by 4, which is 6, plus a fourth plus an inch is 7 1/4. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that. And again, for the dart, you kind of just figure out where you want it to be, roughly somewhere in the middle, if not closer to the center. So I placed mine right here, and then I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on either side to create the 1-inch dart. The back darts can actually be a little bit lower than the front dart. So the front dart we had at 3.5, 4 inches. So this could be at like 3 inches, 2 inches, kind of preference at that point. But I'm gonna put it at 3. I'm gonna mark that, and then I'm gonna bring my line down and the side lines diagonal. Next, we're gonna do the same thing as we did in the front with our waist point. We're gonna bring it up 5/8. So we're gonna take that point that we just marked and bring it down to our original waistline. And then we're gonna take our hip curve and go ahead and mark the hip line all the way down as we did in the front. So the important thing to note on these is that the line up here, first of all, is not gonna be perfectly straight, and the darts need to kind of come out a little bit. So the way that we figured this out is by folding the dart in. Once you fold in the dart roughly how it's supposed to be, whether that be towards the inside or towards the outside, then you're gonna go in with one of these tracing wheels and go over the waistline that we created. You'll notice that it's uneven of where this ends and where this starts, so this is where we're going to kind of fix that. So just go over it a few times to make sure you really marked it in well. And I'm gonna bring you guys a little bit closer to see what it actually looks like. I'm not sure how well it really shows up on camera, but you can see that the tracing wheel left little dots like this in a sort of triangular shape. So I'm going to go ahead and trace that over with my pencil so you guys can see it better. So that is what it's going to look like. And then you just wanna make the rest of this line slightly curved. So I'm going to just kind of do that. And that is the finished back draft. We're gonna do the same on the front. So take your dart and fold it in, then take your tracing wheel and trace over that. Go ahead and trace over those points with your pencil and curve that line slightly. So now you have a finished skirt draft, and you can now transfer it onto thicker paper. I like to use oak tag just to make sure that these last me a very long time. So let's do that. So now we've gone from this to this, which is so much easier to use and manipulate to create new patterns. Remember that this is a sloper and does not have seam allowance right now, so when you do make a pattern, you do need to make sure that you leave enough seam allowance on the outside for it to fit properly. Usually seam allowance is about 1/2 inch, but it is kind of preference, but universally it is 1/2 inch. So just make sure to keep that in mind when you're actually making a pattern out of this. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out. And comment down below what else you guys want to see from this series. As you know, I'm kind of doing anything from pattern making, sewing, draping, all of that. We will touch on everything, but I do want to know what you guys want to see, so leave that down below. And of course, subscribe if you're not already subscribed so you get notified every time I upload a new video. There's so much coming in this series, and I hope that you guys are equally as excited as I am for it. And feel free to follow my social media if you haven't already. My Instagram is @NataliaTrevino for my shop and @Natalia.Trevino for my personal. Feel free to follow both. And that is it for today's video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!